Okay, let's talk about that voice in our heads. You know, the one that's basically a running narrator for our entire lives. But what happens when that narrator starts to sound more like your biggest, harshest critic? Well, in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly where that negative voice comes from, how it literally rewires your brain, and, most importantly, what you can actually do about it.
I completely mess that up. I never get anything right. Oof, a thought like this can feel so true in the moment, can't it? It's just a perfect example of that inner critic in action, taking one little thing that went wrong and blowing it up into this huge judgment about who you are.
And if that does sound familiar, you are absolutely not alone. This kind of self-talk is something almost everyone on the planet experiences. So let's get really clear on what we're actually dealing with when we talk about this voice.
So, first up, the voice in your head. We need to nail down exactly what negative self-talk is, and just as important, what it isn't, because they are not the same thing. Okay, so let's start with a solid definition. At its core, negative self-talk is that internal commentary that's self-critical, that just blows things way out of proportion, or is, just plain mean. It's that thought loop that can seriously chip away at your confidence. And here's what's so interesting. That inner critic isn't all that creative. It pretty much relies on the same old patterns. Like catastrophizing. That's when one typo in an email feels like a career-ending disaster. Then you've got labeling, where you don't just make a mistake, you decide you are the mistake. I'm such an idiot. We also get caught in things like mind reading, where we're positive we know everyone thinks we're incompetent, or that all or nothing thinking, where if it wasn't perfect, it was a complete failure. Just spotting these patterns is a huge first step.
And this brings up a really crucial point. The goal is not to just stop thinking about how you can improve. Healthy self-evaluation is key to getting better at anything. The difference is all in the approach. On one side, you've got negative self-talk, which attacks your very worth. It says, I'm a failure. But on the other side, healthy evaluation looks at a specific thing and asks, okay, how can I do that better next time? One is destructive, the other is constructive. Big difference.
But look, this isn't just about feelings or some abstract idea. This inner critic has a real, actual, physical impact. So for this next part, let's get into the science of how it literally rewires your brain.
And the impact is huge. We know from study after study that chronic negative self-talk is linked to higher rates of anxiety and depression. Every single time you have one of those harsh, critical thoughts, your body physically responds by pumping out stress hormones like cortisol. But the real kicker is that last point. It actually strengthens the negative pathways in your brain. It carves a groove. And this shows you exactly how that happens. It's a process called neuroplasticity. It all starts with repetition. You have a critical thought, then you have it again. And with each repetition, the neural pathway for that thought gets stronger and wider, kind of like a path in the woods that gets clearer the more you walk it. After a while, it becomes automatic. That negative thought is now the brain's default, and it fires off before you even realize it. But here's the amazing news. This whole process can also work in reverse.
Which brings us to the best part, your toolkit for change. And these aren't just, feel-good ideas. These are practical, science-backed techniques you can start using today to build brand new, healthier pathways in your brain.
Okay, first up is a classic from cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. It's a super straightforward three-step process. First, you identify the thought. You have to catch it in the act, like, I'm a total failure. Then, step 2, you examine the evidence, like a detective. Is it really 100% true that I'm a total failure? Wait, I did this well, and I succeeded at that. I only struggled with this one thing. And finally, you replace it with something more accurate. Not fake positivity, but accuracy. Something like, I failed at this one task, but that doesn't make me a failure as a person.
All right, our next technique is all about creating some space, some psychological distance. A lot of the time, we get so tangled up in our thoughts that we treat them like they're the absolute truth. The goal here is to learn how to step back and untangle ourselves. So here's what that tangled up thought looks like. It just pops into your head, I'm going to fail. And man, it feels heavy, doesn't it? It feels like a fact, like a prediction of the future that's already been written. You don't even question it, you just feel it. Now, look at this. It's such a small shift, but it's a total game changer. You just add the phrase, I'm having the thought that. This simple trick comes from an approach called acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT. And it doesn't try to argue with the thought. It just labels it for what it is, a mental event. It's a thought, not a fact. And that creates just enough space for you to observe it instead of being completely swallowed by it. And finally, let's talk about self-compassion. Now, this isn't about self-pity, and it's not about making excuses. It's about changing your fundamental relationship with yourself. Think about it. When a good friend messes up, you don't usually look them in the eye and say, "Wow, you're such an idiot." You offer kindness, support. Self-compassion is just about turning that same instinct inward. It's about remembering that messing up and struggling is just part of being human.
So you've got the tools, but how do you go from consciously, deliberately practicing these things to making them your new automatic habit? Let's talk about making this change actually stick.
Remember neuroplasticity? Well, now it's working for you instead of against you. Yeah, for the first few weeks, using these tools is going to feel like work. It's going to take real effort. But as you keep at it over months, you are physically building new constructive pathways in your brain. You're paving new roads. And eventually, this new, more balanced way of thinking will become your new automatic default.
And really, that's the final, most important takeaway here. Your inner critic might feel like it's a permanent part of who you are, but the science is crystal clear. That's just not true. With consistent practice, real, lasting change is absolutely possible. So here's your call to action. Don't just let this be interesting information you heard. Apply it. Pick one technique we talked about today, just one, and make a deal with yourself to use it the very next time you catch that inner critic piping up. That single moment is how the change really begins.